just to review one more time. So we're dealing with the Gemara on Shabbos Kuf Chaf Gimel Beis, and we're dealing with Chazal's apparent modification of Muktzeh. Well, there was an original premise, which was that all kalim are usher to move except for 3. Okay, and as I pointed out to Ariel, the Ritva openly says that can never mean that every kli in the world is usher to move except for these specific 3 kalim. Rather, it means that it's a kli shemalachta. Well, that kalim that whose normative usage is for something mutter, i.e., eating, drinking, and other things. Of course, those are always mutter. So in the original version of Muktzeh, it was pretty strict, but not as strict as we originally would think. But anyway, what's the first move? The first move is to go from slowly. Kli shemalachta leheter is mutter as long as you're using it for its normative purpose, but not legufo, which would mean an non-normative usage. Okay, so using the case of the spoon, I go from eating. I take the spoon, I move it to eat cereal. That's normative, right? But if I take the spoon and I use it to scratch my back, that's legufo. Okay, kamash malan, that legufo is considered is mutter as well. So if I took the spoon and used it to scratch my back, that would be considered mutter, right? Let's just define that one step. Okay, I don't want to hear anything past that. I don't want to hear about Makomo yet. I just want to find that one step. Let's get that nice and clear. We started saying something yesterday, but let's get that a little clearer. And just as a methodology point, this is categories. This is dealing with definitions of kalim. This is taking this thing, which is an assembly of different components, and looking at it as an object and understanding its function. Very Aristotelian. Yes.
A little bit.
Okay. So, kli shemalachta leheter, you want to propose what? That originally, what was I saying? Mati and Arya want to develop a categorical distinction. They want to say there's something called function, right, and use of the object.
And then also, there's also defining and creating.
And then there's defining and creating. Okay, but don't start digging a hole for yourself. Let's just first deal with usage and function. So you guys want to say that in kli shemalachta leheter, okay, in the original inception, what do they say?
They say that it's in order for the kli to be called a kli shemalachta leheter, it has to be being used in its normative use.
Okay, so if its usage and function are one and the same, right? Well, right. No, when we say function, that always means normative function.
Okay. Usage and normative usage.
You'll see.
Well,
you got to trust me on this one. There's using an object, and then there's the normative function of the object. Okay, there's a reason why I like those terms. Okay, it's going to help out. Okay, but but give him a little leeway, right? Little leash. Okay, so what do you want to say? So you want to say that when the usage and the function, meaning normative function, are one and the same, that is what? That's kli shemalachta leheter. Okay, and therefore, what would that exclude?
Anything that you're not using it for the normative function.
Okay, so we don't use it for its normative function.
Or anything that has a normative function, which is also.
Well, I don't care about this yet. Hold on.
Okay. Yes, for that.
I don't want that yet, though. There's a red lines around there for a reason. But okay.
And so our goof will be excluded because only when it's the normative usage.
Okay, so it's only when it's the normative usage. Okay. Okay, so what's a spoon? Let's take what you're saying and apply it. What's a spoon? And in the original thing.
A thing with spoons.
A thing with spoons.
A spoon is an object which has the potential to be a spoon.
Okay, so. Right, okay, so when you see that, okay, so no, it's good. No, so because what I like what they're doing is they're recognizing you got to be careful. See, I was throwing out yesterday. What the first step you guys took, which I thought was very nice, is to say when does a spoon become a spoon?
Spoons.
But you got to be careful because if you say that, then that means that beforehand, then they're going to problem because what's normative use?
That means the spoon back.
There's no such thing as normative. In other words, right? In other words, you got to be careful. That's the first step you want to take is they're definitely looking at a kli. And they're saying that it's the cause. Here's the point I want to make. The cause, okay, all right. The final cause of the kli, right, is ultimately what's going to define its normative function. Meaning like this, meaning that if you have an object that's long and has a concave head, okay, it doesn't mean that they said, oh, okay, well, we don't know what this thing is. It has no normative function. No, this thing has a normative function of spoon, okay. But what they're saying, right. What are you shaking your head for? Because it has a normative function of spoon, but the question is, when it comes in, what makes the kli shemalachta leheter? Right? They're saying that as long as this thing's normative function is for spoon, then you can use it on Shabbos. Okay? Right, spoon and potentia, right? But the question is, and here's the key thing, this is important, but there's no reality in the chefsa itself of spoon. Okay? That's what I got to be clear about that. And potentia, in other words, when you look at that object, we know its final cause will be spoon. But right now, in the thing itself, it's not the reality. The reality of spoon doesn't exist in it. Right. It doesn't mean we're ignoring the normative function. It's just that when you look at that object, what is in it? There's no abstract thing in it that says it's a spoon.
Right, which is why the only actualization of what's in it is when you have normative usage.
Exactly. Oh, so now the Gemara says, what's the first relaxation? Chazal say no. We're going to shift that to what? So what you're saying here is that kli shemalach heter, right? They're changing the way to look at it. All right, they're modifying it. They're saying no. We're gonna re-modify or kind of shift around the definition we have of kli shemalach heter. Because what is it now?
It's right now. It's still not a kli if you're not using it. But once you use it, it's a kli. No matter what you use it for, it's a kli. And what is that kli? That kli
is the din of what the normative
function.
Okay, fine. So which means, okay, just one little step further.
It is a spoon no matter what you use it.
Oh, okay. So what they said was that no, that a spoon. I mean, the contrast to what I just said before. The spoon. There is an idea of spoon in the kli itself. In other words, its normative function isn't just simply the final cause, but rather the thing itself is defined independently as a spoon.
Yeah, but it's still a kli shemalach heter if you move it just for.
You still have to use it.
There's still dinner usage
in order to give it the.
Okay, good. You guys got the next step ready. I can see that. Okay, good. Okay, well, hold on. But that's the first move. The first heter. Hold on. The first heter is to say what? Is to say that rather than look at this thing as rather than say the final cause ultimately is going to define it, we're saying that in the thing itself, in this thing right here is tape recorder. It exists. It is defined as a tape recorder. They took the normative function and they made it. They took it in a sense to put it like in a physical way. They took it and put it into the kli. Okay, so now the kli has an intrinsic definition.
It's like a variable of an object in a computer program.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Right. I believe you. So I don't understand it, but I believe you. So it's not my. If you now say that intrinsically speaking, the kli is defined by its normative function, then you can understand why it would make sense why you could use it for anything. Because as long as the usage of it is towards something that's mutter, if it's attached to something mutter, then it makes sense why you should be able to use it.
Heter based upon normative usage.
Correct.
Normative function.
Right, but now you see now it's not that there's no like maximizing loopholes or some sort of logical push. It's beautiful. The idea of gufo naturally emerges from redefining kli shemalach heter. You understand? The idea of legufo isn't like a super added concept. It's that if you redefine what a kli shemalach heter is, legufo will naturally emerge. Oh, okay. Well, that's the next thing. Yes, but don't forget this point. You have to remember this point going all the way through. That muktzeh, what did Chazal do? They took this net and they threw it over Caleb and said, now there's an Isser Tiltal, all right? Which is like, that's crazy. That's a crazy idea. So that's what this Gemara is trying to do. It's trying to show you, it wasn't just simply taking a net and throwing it over all Caleb, but rather there's a logical, categorical, step-by-step method in how they devise muktzeh. Okay? I know it's a relaxation. I know they're modifying it, but I'm saying in each modification, forget historically, in each modification we're seeing another way or another concept in how tiltal is an issue. Okay? That's each step. Okay, so now, take the term usage, and I'm just going to change one letter in it, but you'll see a couple letters. Utility. Okay? There's something called utility. Okay, what does utility mean?
It's about the use of the tool.
Right, okay, it's the ability of usage. Okay? So things like this. The Gemara's next move is to say, okay, well, if it's legufo, right? So as long as I move the kli, it doesn't have to be for its, and again, that's why I'm keeping the term separate. Even if it's not for its normative function, as long as there's an expression of utility in the kli, then it's okay.
That's how I was saying creates the din.
Right. As long as an expression of utility, as long as my tiltal is one that's related to an expression of utility, then that's considered a permitted move. But Mekomo, what am I doing if I just move something out of the way for the makom?
The utility's not in it; it's in the place itself. The utility's in the place, and you're just moving to get to the utility of the place.
Yes.
Right, but the point is, but is that okay? That's true. But I'm saying, but ultimately, in the meta categorical sense, is there any utilization of the kli?
No. That's what I'm saying.
Right, so that's why Mekomo would be different.
But it does.
When you do.
Okay, so now you're answering why it's mutter. Okay, in other words, but the reason why Mekomo would be a problem, right, is because you're divorcing utility from the kli. You're divorcing it. You're taking the notion of utility, which is the essential. See, that's what the beauty of the Gemara. You're going. That's why you have to look at it from the perspective of the chefsa. They take spoon. They make it into the kli itself. They intrinsically define it as spoon. Okay, and then they say now you create sort of like this sphere of like normative utility of kli. But it still has to be being used, okay? If I'm using the kli for something, if I go ahead and just move something out of the way for the makom, that's not an expression of utility. The notion of utility, it went from normative function to now the kli is one of utility, right? And now if I take utility out, right, that's a problem. Who says I can move it? There's nothing productive in the utility. But as Mati's pointing out, why do they say now it is okay? Because now
defines it as a utensil, but it is the normative function, which gives it the din of kli.
No. Why is Makar saying if you look at a kli in terms of utility, if I just move something for the sake of the makom because I want the makom for something else, right? I'm not making use of the kli. There's no utility being expressed in my movement. It's a and this is the key point, Yaakov. You got to pay attention to this. It's a purposeless movement. Okay, you guys asked before about a rock. Okay, rock lacks utility.
Rocks have no utility.
Or what? Or money. Or money. No, but there's no avenue of an expression of
normative avenue.
Yeah, there's no There's no normative. There's no normative avenue of expression that can exist on Shabbos for money. So because they come along, they take utility. They say this thing is not even defined as. It's not a kli shemachal l'isser. Money's not a kli shemachal l'isser. It's not. It's eitz avanim. That's a different category. It's purposeless, functionless. Even though the movement of the kli itself is not an expression of its utility, but the question is it productive?
Right.
Okay, is it a productive movement? Well, it is a productive
not
movement.
Just productive for.
That's what I mean by productive. For me.
What is
For me. Productive means that I want the makom.
So what about productive for the thing itself?
No, that's the point. Right? The point is that it's not an expression of utility in the kli, but there's a productive aspect to it.
Productive defined as a kli, is productive defined as a kli.
I even sorach makomo, because it's saying as long as my movement, right, is one that has a productive aspect to it. That evaluated by the way, in my framework, I need that makom, then it's considered an okay movement. So I just want to show you what we've done. In other words, what we've done is we've gone from normative function defining it to utility to productive. Okay? Yes. Remember, I told you what makes this so difficult. You're going to nap very well this afternoon because this is a very it's great mental exercise. Okay. Now the problem is that before we were doing the variables of gufo and makomo, right? Okay. But now the Gemara shifts to what? Klishim lachta le'isser. Forget gufo makomo. The step I would define at this point is the differentiation between klishim lachta le'isser and leheter. Okay. What? Right, but what's the Gemara telling you? Does the Gemara wait until this point to pull out the klishim lachta le'isser card? Forget gufo makomo. So wait until this point to pull it out. Why? Or what's the difference between klishim lachta le'isser and leheter and its formulation? Okay, like what is it? Okay, in the original version, okay. Anything other than a klishim lachta leheter is a klishim lachta le'isser. Right. There's no positive identification of klishim lachta le'isser. It's simply what? It's simply not a klishim lachta le'isser. Right. Exactly. So what happened? Okay. This is a very easy move, by the way. In fact, these two moves here are fairly simple, I think, relative to the first couple moves. In other words, what happened is like this. Because originally, when they had klishim lachta leheter, and that's what it means, kol hakelim. It means that in that world, right? Anything other than a klishim lachta leheter becomes a klishim lachta le'isser, but there's no positive identity. It's just the absence of heteris status or whatever you want to call it. But once they move into the chefsa, once they say now that this kli has an intrinsic identity, right? What naturally emerged from that? Now you have the ability, Chazal, the ability to do what? To categorize Vaheter or L'Isser. In other words, once we take the function and take it and put it into the Kli, now we can start talking about Heter and Isser.
Right, so
okay?
Once an order function defines Kli.
I agree, right. Okay.
But the problem here, the question I have is this.
No, so now you have, okay, so this is where if you, it took me like a couple days to figure out what to do with that because it's a very difficult problem. Why is it that when it comes in the relaxation steps, why does Abaye, why does he put the brakes on Mikomo by Klishim lachta le'isser? In other words, what should have happened is like this. Follow me here. Klishim lachta leheter legufo. Klishim lachta leheter gufo plus Mikomo. Klishim lachta le'isser gufo. Klishim lachta le'isser gufo plus Mikomo. For some reason, they don't want to include Mikomo as well. Why?
Wait, why should we go on Klish Malak Isser Gufo, then Klish Malak Isser Mekomo? Shouldn't it just once you already established that?
Yes.
Mekomo's not-
Okay. I'm being yes, correct. In other words, so just to be technical, Ariel's right. Since we already know the ideas of Mekomo and Gufo, I mean, you're getting to the answer. But since we already know the ideas of Gufo and Mekomo, so the Gemara could have just said Klish Malak Isser is mutter both Gufo and Mekomo. Why does it not want to make Mekomo mutter? What? I'm just going to make my proposal. Okay. My proposal is that the problem is since Klish Malak Leheter and Isser, they're not intrinsic definitions of the Kli. This is a bottle, okay, or a power drill. It's just that their usage, how you use them, is what gives it its expression of Isser or Leheter, right? That's not an intrinsic definition. You know, so the problem is like this. The problem is that if you don't make a chiluk here, what's going to happen? If you don't make the chiluk, this is what you're getting at.
You're gonna see people are going to eat.
Exactly. There's no difference in the kalim. I understand. I know. What I said to you before, I said just wait. All right. The problem is like this. The problem is it's not that there's something intrinsically different about Mekomo. Right? It's not that there's something intrinsically different about Klish Malak or the Hitter, and then you're going to have to start differentiating why Mekomo should be different. No, they're just basically abstract definitions that Chazal created for these kalim. But the problem is we need to make sure that a person differentiates between them. How would you know the difference between a Klish Malak or Isser or Heter if you didn't have this? You would think that it's basically they're one. They're one and the same.
Well, what they would be.
Oh, I agree. That's the point.
Okay, so what's the problem?
Wait, so you're saying really that
There's two ways you can look at. There's two ways you can look at this move here. Okay. One way you can say this. One way you can say is that they established this variable. They established this variable, and these two variables should apply to Kalim. What's second across the board. And I know you like that, right? And now when the Klish Malak Isser, we're going to create a restriction.
If they Mekomo first, would they have nixed Gufo for Klish Malak?
Well, they can never do that first. Mekomo logically derives from Gufo.
and the same reason
Okay.
you could derive
But what you're saying is that you're saying that.
I'm saying the rules apply equal at all cases.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
That's another way to look at it. You could go down that road. You could go down the road of saying that. You could definitely say that. The other reason why I said this way is why, because I know what Rav is going to say.
We also know.
Yeah, we know.
So if you know what Rav is going to say, maybe then you'll see why I went in this direction.
This-
Okay. The truth is that the way I prepare this is that
Agreed.
I did ping pong back and forth.
It's not just